But really, I think it probably started after my dad first started getting stoned, as far as becoming not necessarily a family business, but certainly something the family's been very proud of. But back in the 70s, when he first got high, he decided that he needed to educate people on how to buy marijuana properly and what they should pay for it. So he wrote this book called Grass, and that was so everybody in the country would know what they should be paying for their four-finger lids and their and he involved us kids after he wrote the book, and he got the first printing, and he brought it home and he opens it up, and there's a misprint on the first page. So he's like, okay, we're going out to get these ink pads, and we're going to black this out, and we're going to restamp it so we can get these things sold, and I'm going to go around the country, and everybody's going to know. and everybody's going to understand how they can buy their pot and what they should pay for it, and it's going to be great. And it's a coloring book. And, you know, that kind of was the beginning of the madness. And, you know, it was here in LA where a lot of the big, you know, numbers started rolling with Coke, and my dad's like, hey, well, there's got to be a better way to do it than chopping it up with a razor blade. So he came up with this little screen that you could pestle it through instead of chopping it, and it would chop it finer than anything in the world, and it did. That started a company called Johnny Snowflake.
When it snows in your town, be sure Johnny Snowflake's around. Johnny Snowflake is the one when you want to have some fun.
I remember in the late 70s, my dad had basically his first like paper edition of the Emperor after he had, you know, created this information that he had to get out there. And he said, Dan, Barry, tomorrow I'm coming to your school and I'm handing it out to every student. And we're like, what? My new book. What? You know, he goes, the only way that you can win this is to teach the children so they can go forward, because they're going to be the ones that are going to be voting, and they need to know this information, and I'm going to hand it out, and, you know. But I go to school here, Dad. You know? Couldn't you go to somebody else's school?
Shortly after I became editor of High Times, Doug McVeigh showed up at the office. He was an intern at the Normal, and he had a Xerox 80-page manuscript called "The Emperor Wears No Clothes."
Oh yeah.
And it had been sent to Normal, but apparently Normal wasn't interested in it. And Doug asked me to read it right there in front of him. And after I read the first few pages, I asked Doug if I could have a copy of this material. And I started on a quest to find the guy who wrote it, Jack Herrera. I finally found him at a Normal conference. I think it was in 1989. And somebody pointed him out to me, and I came running up to him. I said, Jack, I'm Steve Hager from High Times, and I want to do a story about you. And he said, do a story on John Sajo. And then he jumped in an elevator and disappeared. John was running the initiative in Oregon at the time, and I don't know if people realize how shy Jack was sometimes, you know, and didn't really seek the limelight like you would have expected him to. I asked Jack if we could publish the book, and my company changed their mind and decided not to do it, and that's when he hooked up with Chris Conrad and Lynn Osborne and stuff, and I was just really proud to do anything I could to help Jack and support that. It's true, when I met Jack, he was already kind of done with the hemp information. He was talking about spirituality, how it had been corrupted. And he pointed me on a path, which I continued until this day, of trying to get to the bottom of the reality is all the major religions were built by cannabis cults. And the cannabism is what it's called in the Hebrew Bible. Soma is what it's called in the Rig Veda. Hayoma is what it's called in the Zoroastrian tradition. And that really, stoners were the first people to you know, domesticate horses, build covered wagons. They brought the wheel, so many great innovations in civilization, and for some reason we've turned against this plant.
And the computer!
But the thing to remember is we're all spiritual beings, but nobody had that connection stronger than Jack. He's the greatest rabbi we have. And right before my last conversation with Jack, before he had his second stroke, he called me up and he asked me to do a story on Rick Simpson.
Yes.
And I really felt Jack wants to torch past the Rick Simpson.
Yeah. He's got it.
This is what he wants. More than legal. He wants the cancer patients to get the oil.
That's essential.
So, and I also promised Dan and the family that we would put out a memorial issue and call for 420 to become Jack Hager Day. And that right here today we form an organization called Veterans of the Marijuana Wars. And on our gravesite we plant our flag, and at the jails we plant our flags. Now we want our people out of jail. Okay? It's time to recognize our veterans, the ones who died, the ones who are still in jail. Marijuana is going to be legal. Now let's help the veterans. Thank you.
They were doing this 420 hum at the gravesite, and my brother, the and my brother and I were standing probably 100 yards back behind everything, just kind of absorbing. And I walked over to him and I asked him how he was, and I pointed out a hummingbird, and as I said that, the hummingbird got closer and closer.
It was just dancing, right?
And it was just dancing from his shoulder to around my shoulder and back over to his shoulder.
Terrific.
And you could hear its wings fluttering, right? Whatever it was a special moment. It was a truly special moment.
We love you, Jack.
Jack, the emperor of him. Jack, freedom fighter for this precious land. He dedicated his life. He dedicated his heart. He exposed the lies. Inspired me to do my part. Jack Hager, the Emperor, thank you for making the world aware. And we come
Yahweh Rachamim Shofim B'Amamim Amsei Menucham B'Chon HaTachat Kanafei HaShekhinah Malot Kedoshim U'Torim K'Zor HaKiyam Asirim Et Nishmat Ha'ish Hazeh Shalach L'Olamo V'Gan Eden Tehei Menuchato L'Chim Bala Rachamim Yastireu B'Seita K'Nafav L'Olamim V'Yitzror B'Zor HaChayim Et Nishmato L'Anayu Nachalato V'Yanuach V'Shalom HaMishkavo V'Nomar Amen.